Welcome everybody to another edition of Time with Tom. And with the Time with Tom, we just do video snippets with industry thought leaders. My role is I head up product strategy and marketing for Cornerstone Information Systems. And today I'm glad to be joined by Steve Reynolds, the president and CEO of TRIPBAM. And today we're going to talk a little about dynamic hotel sourcing. And so thank you, Steve, so much for joining us today.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome. Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet. And so dynamic hotel sourcing, can you just, for those who are not familiar with it, can you give kind of a quick overview of what it is?
Yeah, it means different things to different folks. I mean, we're not necessarily talking about dynamic rates, which is what most folks kind of
Mhm.
think of it. It's more of, the historical legacy process has been very batch oriented, which meant once a year, every other year, I take a deep review of my hotel program. I look at where we've got volume, where we might need new discounts. I think about which discounts are performing well. I benchmark a little bit. I kind of go out, do my bidding, get it all in place, do an audit to see if it's loaded correctly, and then I forget about it for the rest of the year. And so what we found is
Mhm.
hotels or travelers are a lot more dynamic than that. I mean, yeah, they probably do go to similar destinations, but the quality of the hotels tend to change, the locations need to change. You've
Sure.
got hotels that play games with availability that need to be removed from the program. You've got discounts you negotiated that are no longer valid. So if you really want to maximize the savings, it just needs to be more dynamic. You need to be on top of it on a much more regular basis and have the ability to source deals and renegotiate deals, as
Mhm.
needed. And so most travel managers don't have resource to do that in any meaningful
Sure.
way. So with the usage of technology and applications and such and benchmark data, we feel like we're now providing a platform that makes it a lot more easy, simpler, real time, dynamic, so to speak, so that someone can stay on top of this daily, weekly, monthly, however often they want to. And it just ends up being you get a lot more value from your hotel program.
So it's almost like a little more of a continual sourcing where if something is falling out or something, you're seeing something, you're actually reacting to it more in real time as opposed to the yearly procurement.
Exactly. Yeah. It's always on real time sort of hotel program audit. And what I mean
Mhm.
by that is, we've got all these dashboards and such, hotel intelligence, and then our daily rate shopping and our smart sourcing solution, where we identify easily, we believe, for opportunities where here's a hotel not performing well. Click a button, let's renegotiate the deal. Here's a market where you've got a lot of travelers staying in a non-preferred hotel. And if you had a negotiated deal with that hotel based on industry benchmarks, we believe you could save $10,000 on an annual basis, whatever it might be. Click this button, let's get a deal in place. And then thirdly, for our consulting clients, they have a lot of project work. And so they get sort of ahead of time, we need a hotel in downtown Dallas, 4-star near this location. Would you go and get one for us? And so we make it real easy to see all the hotels that are performing well in that market, and
Mhm.
then they can click a button and get a deal in place so that they immediately save the money. It's not after the fact, right? Which is
Kind
kind
of
of
this,
how it's
yeah.
been working in the
This
past.
evergreen, yeah. And so from a data standpoint, I'm a data geek at heart. And so what types of data or data elements, or how are you using data to be able to do this more effectively than just your traditional sourcing?
Yeah, I mean, just good timing on the question, just because we just
Mhm.
launched a new dashboard, which is more holistic around across the whole industry. But we've got over the last 8 years, we've grown significantly. We've got about 2,000 clients. We've got 50 of the Fortune 100. So we've got a lot of booking data specific to corporate transient travel in our system. We
Mhm.
also have all the contracted deals that those clients have in place. We know which hotels are performing well and which ones aren't, and so on. So the data is used in all kinds of different ways. So starting at a very high level, we can tell you by market, by city, by hotel, what has COVID done to rates.
Sure.
This particular market is down 37%. Volume at this particular hotel is off by 85%. It sort of gives you an indication of what kind of new rate you should be able to get if you were to
Mhm.
negotiate a deal with that property. So that's one example. We look at chains and brands to see who's kind of a winner and loser right now, in the shift of market share. So, for example, a lot of the volume is going down market. you're seeing a lot more bookings in 2.5 to 3-star
Right.
hotels rather than the 4 to 4.5. So that means the Hiltons and the IHGs that have those down market brands are actually getting a lot more share than they have in the past. Um, so that's kind of a high level view. But then you get into a client specific perspective where we can tell you you've got a rate of 189 at this hotel. Well, everybody else has a rate of 169, and you actually have more volume going into that property and into this market than the other companies of similar size. So you should have a better deal, right? It's those kind of insights, I think, that really help get that incremental value from a hotel program and say, look, you've got 189, everybody else is 169. Based on your volume, you should be 149. Let's go get that deal, right?
Yeah. And then as far as, feedback and reaction from the industry, I mean, what's been the reaction from buyers? What's been the reaction from hotels and chains?
Mhm. To dynamic sourcing specifically,
Yeah.
buyers seemed to have really adopted it well. I mean, it was surprising. We thought, look, let's just have a way to do incremental sourcing, and then you can use your legacy process, whether that be the Sabre solution or Landing solution, when the time comes. But fairly quickly, and partially due to COVID, they said, look, we want to migrate to this 100%. I don't want to have to go back to that legacy process. So we had to add somewhat of a batch capability to transition their 1,000 hotels off the old way over to new, and then they incrementally source from that point forward. So that was been kind of the big surprise. The acceptance, the adoption, whatever. I think the industry is hungry for something new and different. The
Absolutely.
properties have been extremely receptive to it. I mean, the
Mhm.
average discount we're getting, is around, 18% on a dynamic deal, equivalent on a static, as compared to what the chains have been offering, which is around a 5 to 6% discount. So the properties are all on board. They're now calling us, asking how they can get in the program, how can they get
Excellent.
promoted, and so on. The chains have been a little bit mixed in that they're concerned that we're going to go around them. And to be honest, we don't care. I mean, we don't have a dog in this fight.
Right.
If the travel manager wants to go direct to property, they can. If they want to go to the chain, they can. If they want to go to both, they can. All it depends on, I've got a bid, where do you want it to go? And we give them the ability to send it, to these different folks. How that's all going to get worked out, I think time will tell. Some chains are on board, wanting to work with us, providing APIs so that we can feed it directly in the system. Others are a bit more standoffish, saying, we really don't want you going to the properties at all. And I'm like, look, call the buyer, go talk to them. We'll do whatever they want us to do.
Excellent.
But I think over time, there'll be APIs available to us that we can poke this deal directly into the chain system, the PMS, the CRS, and so on, and we can automate it end to end. And at that point, you know, it really doesn't matter.
Right. Well, it's exciting stuff, Steve. I've always enjoyed talking with you. You're definitely an industry thought leader, industry disruptor in the most positive way, and always enjoyed the conversation. Now, I always end time with Tom with some sort of fun question, and it was going to be something about crazy stories about teachers or classmates or things, but you've got a deer behind you that in the picture here in the video that has a Hawaiian lei on, a captain's. What's the story with the deer behind you? I got to ask about that.
Yeah, so that I inherited that from my grandfather. I did not shoot that deer. Let's first off be clear. I'm not a hunter by any stretch. The picture below it is actually the picture of my grandfather with a whole bunch of other folks. Well, the deer is in that picture. And so, I put it up there, and then it's been on these webinars, and everybody seems to ask, what's the story behind the deer? So that kind of led to, all right, now I need to decorate the deer. So I try to follow some sort of seasonal approach. I don't know why I picked the Hawaiian lei and the ship for this particular month, but it's time to transition it to
I was
something
about to say,
like,
because you're in Texas and I'm in Minnesota, and you just want
if
to
I
make
were in
things
Hawaii, that
nice.
might make sense. It might be time to go to Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day or something like that. But I'm going to try and keep it a little bit more up to date, kind of going forward. But it's really funny how everybody wants to talk about that deer, on these webinars,
Oh, I
just
know.
ask questions about it.
I
So
get the antique golf clubs in the background as well.
I noticed
My,
those. I
my
know.
wife's uncle, yeah, they have words like niblick and mashy and so forth. My wife's uncle was an antique dealer, and I'm a golfer, and so
Wow.
he picked those up for me over the years, and so I just kind of have them there as a homage to him. So
Yeah, very cool. Very
Well,
cool.
anyway, again appreciate the time. If you like what you see on these videos, we'll be trying to do them probably every other week or so. So hit your like button on YouTube, hit your subscribe if you want to be notified of more. And thanks again for your time, Steve. Take care.
Thanks. All right, Tom. Thank you.